Good morning. It's another fresh edition of Inside Nigerian Leadership Television this Wednesday morning. Today is August 27, 2025, and of course, my name is Winifred Ubebo, your host on the program. Without much ado, we are looking at what the papers are saying, including Nigeria's most influential leadership newspaper. And as we normally do on the program, we like to flag off with leadership. Let's go there. Leadership's leading story today says varsity lecturers protest across campuses. Varsity lecturers protest across campuses. 240 colleagues die yearly over poor living conditions, coming from Fulafia Asuche. The story, cover story, runs on page 4 of leadership. Perhaps we could just say take some excerpts from that leading story. Academic activities across Nigerian universities face fresh uncertainty, with members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, staging nationwide protests and leaving students unattended to. The protest has further raised fears of another prolonged strike in the country's higher education system. The demonstrations held simultaneously in several states saw lecturers carrying placards and chanting solidarity songs. They demanded that the federal government address lingering issues of unpaid salaries, withheld allowances, and inadequate funding for public universities. ASU leaders accused the government of being insensitive to the plight of lecturers and students, warning that the protests were a prelude to possible industrial action if urgent steps were not taken. In Abuja, lecturers marched around the university gates demanding the release of outstanding earned academic allowances and revitalization funds. Similar protests also occurred in Lagos, Akure, Jos, and other university towns. Excerpts from leading story, cover leading story on leadership this Wednesday. Varsity lecturers protest across campuses, and that story continues on page 4 of the paper. We have the pictures of a train derailment at Jere Station on the Kaduna Abuja route yesterday. Photos by NEMA. Of course, the unfortunate incident happened yesterday, and fortunately also no life was lost. Meanwhile, the story for that photo says passengers narrate ordeal as NSIB probes.
That's the coach I was in, the one that tumbled. Can you imagine?
Of the paper. Still on leadership, climate threat, 7 northern states move to protect river basins. Ribadu hands over 128 rescued Zamfara residents to families. Assembly suspends ex-speaker over alleged plot to impeach Elia. Nigerians suffering, they deserve better, PDP reps tell Tinubu. Nigerians suffering, they deserve better, PDP reps tell Tinubu. That story is on page 25 of the paper, and it takes us towards the masthead of leadership. We have Osun drags federal government to Supreme Court over withheld local government allocations, and it continues on page 7 of leadership. On the business bus, we have CBN to curb POS fraud, orders geotagging of devices. The Central Bank of Nigeria has mandated the geotagging of all points of sale terminals across the country as part of fresh measures to strengthen oversight and curb fraud in the electronic payment space. The geotagging directive by CBN for POS devices will mean that they can only be used in the specific locations where they are registered. This will limit their mobility and restrict their use to designated areas, like requiring changes in business models, especially for sectors like transportation or logistics that rely on flexibility. The story continues on page 7 of leadership. CBN to curb POS fraud, orders geotagging of devices. Business cover story on leadership. FCTA promotes 49 deputy directors. Page 7 is the continuation of the story. Tinubu bans raw share export for 6 months, eyes $300 million revenue boost. That story runs on page 19 of leadership, and that takes us to page 3, where we have our stand. Today's stand is on TRSSF and matters arising, still on lecturers issue. That is what today's stand is dedicated on. And of course, the cover story says varsity lecturers protest across campuses. Incidentally, today's stand is on the issue of lecturers. It says the federal government's creation of the Tertiary Institution Staff Support Fund, TISSF, is presented as a welfare initiative to cushion workers' hardship in Nigeria's tertiary institutions. Introduced by the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, the scheme promises loans to academic and non-academic staff, much like other welfare packages found in the public and private sectors. On the surface, it appears a welcome relief. In reality, it is anything but a relief. We go to the stand, actually, the conclusion, where the paper takes a stand. If Nigeria is to build a knowledge economy capable of driving national development, then the government must treat its tertiary education sector with the seriousness it deserves. Lecturers and other university staff are not beggars to be pacified with loans. They are nation builders whose welfare, morale, and professional integrity directly shape the quality of our human capital. To ignore this part is to gamble recklessly with the country's future. Excerpts from today's stand in leadership, TISSF and matters are rising. From our stand, we move briskly to the back page of leadership. Today's back page is the usual, the permanent column, Wednesday column with Olufunke Barua. And today's column is on biometrics or backlash, the NYSC's quiet retaliation against Uche Rita Ugwamaye. And in quote, Nigeria's fault lines which continue to run along class, wealth, and connection must stop. Quotes from today's Wednesday column with Olufunke Barua. Her column is on biometrics or backlash, the NYSC's quiet retaliation against Uche Rita Ugwamaye. Before we leave the back page, let's visit Ghana Must Go. Ghana Must Go today. News: Osun doubles IGRO to 54.7 billion naira in 2024. And Ghana Must Go, so mischievous, replied through dancing. Of course, Senator Adeleke will have to answer that. It's on this note to conclude review of Leadership newspaper this Wednesday. Don't forget to log into the website of Leadership for continuation of those stories. Meanwhile, we move to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is Vanguard. Vanguard and Punch are talking still on the PDP zoning arrangement yesterday, and it continues. So Vanguard says presidency, northern blocks oppose PDP zoning ticket to south. Presidency, northern blocks oppose PDP zoning ticket to south. And of course, it has kickers, so many kickers underneath it. Let's take it one by one. Nigerian youth kick against PDP's decision. We won't take it. Non-central stakeholders tell PDP APC. Decision violates Nigeria party's constitutions. Hashim Group. APC PDP may lose in north to a strong northern candidate, Rufai. PDP members demanding zoning ticket to not selfish. To not as selfish. Coming from Bode George. Obi keeps Labour Party, PDP guessing. ADC tackles PDP, APC on zoning tickets 2 years to poll. Says PDP trying to lure Jonathan Obi Amechi. Kickers to the leading story on Vanguard this Wednesday. Presidency northern blocks oppose PDP zoning ticket to south. The story continues on page 5 of Vanguard newspaper. Meanwhile, when we are done with Vanguard, we are also going to be taking Punch, because Punch also has similar story. However, let's conclude with that of Vanguard. Other stories gracing the cover of Vanguard newspapers. Passengers scamper as Abuja Kaduna train derails. Benue Assembly suspends Speaker over Governor Elias impeachment move. 3rd million bridge mishaps. Lasma police FROSC differ. That story is on page 10 of Vanguard. 3rd million bridge mishaps. Lasma police FROSC differ. Ribadu hands over 128 rescued kidnapped victims to families. Nigeria records 46% decline in variant poliovirus cases, coming from MPHCDA. That takes us to the stories above the masthead of Vanguard. Tinubu imposes 6-month ban on export of raw shea nuts. And we have ASU's protest disrupts academic activities on campuses nationwide. Osun drags federal government to Supreme Court over weighted local government allocation. Same leading story on Leadership newspaper. It's on this note we conclude review of front headline stories on Vanguard this Wednesday. For more, log into the website of Vanguard, www.vanguardngr.com. From Vanguard, we move to the next paper with similar headline stories, and that is The Punch. The Punch says 2027 PDP ticket zoning to South splits North. 2027 PDP ticket zoning to South splits North. Parties national northern stakeholders to review decision next week. Parties northern stakeholders to review decision next week. Move may favor Tinubu's re-election, warn Arewa youths. Zoning fair to South, says Middle Belt. We also have the pictures of the train derailment yesterday between Kaduna and Abuja and Kaduna at Jere Junction. And he says pro begins as Abuja Kaduna train mishap injures 6. Beside the masthead of the Punch, weighted allocations, Osun drags federal government to Supreme Court. And above the masthead, U.S. court jails Osun monarch over $4.2 million COVID-19 fraud. U.S. court jails Osun monarch over $4.2 million COVID-19 fraud. We have the picture of the monarch, of the Osun monarch beside the story atop the masthead of the Punch. 239 first-class lecturers quit Unilag over poor pay, coming from SVC. ASU protest rocks campuses ahead federal government talks. That story is on page 29 of the Punch newspaper. Same leading story on the cover of Leadership newspaper. It's on this note we also conclude review of front headline stories on the Punch newspaper this Wednesday. For more, log into the website of the Punch newspaper. We move ahead to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is Nigerian Tribune. Nigerian Tribune's leading story is the Osun legal action against federal government. It says Osun takes federal government to Supreme Court over withheld local government allocations, challenges transfer of local government funds case to Abuja. The story is on page 3 of Nigerian Tribune. Oyo partners firm to develop Oluyole free trade zone. Zone will boost economy, create 5,000 direct jobs in 24 months. Page 3 of 13 of the paper is where we have continuation of the story. Oyo partners firm to develop Oluyole free trade zone. Zone will boost economy, create 5,000 direct jobs in 24 months. Awujale's 2. Ogun government constitutes 11-member administrative body in Ijebu-Ode. 7 injured as Abuja Kaduna train derails. The story is on page 23 of Nigerian Tribune. 618 people on board. NEMA leads rescue team. NSIB commences investigation. Passengers have been complaining before derailment. Shehu Sani. NSA hands over 128 rescued Zamfara kidnap victims to families, vows to hunt down bandits. We actually have the picture of the NSA Nuhu Ribadu with some of the rescued kidnap victims on the cover of Nigerian Tribune. That takes us to the stories about the masthead of Nigerian Tribune. ASU says patience with federal government runs thin as protests sweep campuses. Threatens total strike after August 28 talks. Court orders 6 banks to furnish IGP with account details linked to Sowore. Another account orders for forfeiture of 5 billion naira in shares linked to ex-Army General. I'll take that story again. Court orders 6 banks to furnish IGP with account details linked to Sowore. Another court orders for forfeiture of 5 billion naira in shares linked to ex-Army General. That concludes review of front headline stories on Nigerian Tribune this Wednesday. For more, log into the website of Nigerian Tribune. We head up to the next paper we have on our lineup this Wednesday, and that is Daily Sun. Daily Sun says kidnapping, 2.56 billion naira ransom paid in 1 year, according to reports. Kidnapping, 2.56 billion naira ransom paid in 1 year, reveals report. Tinubu to unveil revised national counter-terrorism strategy, October. Federal government pros Abuja Kaduna train derailment, suspends activities. towards the masthead of Daily Sun will wipe out terrorists, bandits, others too. NSA hands over 128 rescued Zamfara victims. Beside the masthead of Daily Sun, we have local government phones. Osun drags federal government to Supreme Court, challenges transfer of case to Abuja. That also concludes the review of front headline stories on Daily Sun this Wednesday. For more, log into www.thesun.ng. From Daily Sun, we move ahead, and that is the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian this Wednesday, August 27, 2025. Leading story, over 5,000 cargoes trapped at ports amid 2 trillion naira demurrage losses. The story also has a picture of the train derailment in between Abuja and Kaduna at Jere Junction yesterday. Posers over security contracts maintenance after 188th train derailment in 6 years. Posers over security contracts maintenance after 188th train derailment in 6 years. Of course, you want to break it down and divide that by 6. You actually get the average number of times the Nigerian train has derailed for each year. Posers over security contracts maintenance after 188th train derailment in 6 years. And the story continues on page 6 of The Guardian. Gunmen kidnap pastor worshipper couple in Kogi, Katsina. Osun drags federal government to Supreme Court over withheld local government funds. Rivers local government post police vow tough time for cultist troublemakers. Rivers local government post police vow tough time for cultist troublemakers. Electricity consumers raise concern over tariff hike, epileptic supply. Pencom most new pension investment rules recovers 4.57 billion naira from 138 defaulting employers. Patients, caregivers groan as power cut throws Yaba Psychiatric Hospital in darkness. We move towards the masthead of The Guardian. ASU threatens nationwide strike over unmet demands. Court orders for forfeiture of ex-military officers 5 billion naira shares to federal government. Insecurity, Tinubu to unveil revised national counter-terrorism strategy. That news runs on page 3 of The Guardian. It also concludes the review of the front page news on the cover of The Guardian this Wednesday. For more, log into the website of The Guardian. Well, viewers, is on this note to conclude today's Inside Nigeria, where we reviewed some national newspapers, headline stories, including Nigeria's most influential leadership. Don't forget to log into the website of these papers for continuation of the stories. My name is Winifred Ugbebo. Don't also forget to join us on this station for news on the hour. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the